Welcome everyone to the Wednesday edition of our Packers News live chat. Alongside Pete Dougherty, I am Olivia Reiner. The Packers hit the field for the second day of minicamp, and quarterback Jordan Love had a pretty big day. We'll get into all of the details in just a moment. However, before we begin, as always, you know the drill. You can be a part of our conversation. If you're over on Facebook, Periscope, or YouTube, leave us a question down in the chat. Pete and I always love to hear from you. We'll get to some of your thoughts toward the end of our conversation today. Listen, the Packers are currently playing in shorts. There's no pads involved. There's really no contact involved. So to make any sweeping, definitive, conclusive statements would be foolish. However, quarterback Jordan Love appeared to have one of his better practices of the offseason program today. He connected on several deep balls, which we haven't really seen from him today. Plus, we also saw that he had a successful 2-minute drill as well. Given the circumstances, how pleased should the Packers be with Jordan Love's progress today?
I mean, they've got to feel, pretty decent about it. Just, there's been a lot of practices we haven't seen, but the OTAs, they were, when they did 11 on 11, it was half speed basically. So, you really couldn't tell anything from that. But we're here in minicamp both days so far. They've gone, pretty much full speed in the when they've done 11 on 11. And he had a very unimpressive day yesterday, and he looked pretty good today. Hit on some big throws. So I was just to see him do that and have that kind of success. And he never really quite answered the question, but this might have been his best practice, that he's had since he's been with the team, going back to training camp last year. I don't remember having a day like this in camp last year. So it's just nothing more than, if you're the Packers, an encouraging sign that the guy has some ability.
No quarterback Aaron Rodgers at minicamp today, once again, not a surprise. However, there was a new face, this time on the defense at Packers minicamp today, and that would be inside linebacker Devondre Campbell. He's a 6-year NFL vet who has 462 career tackles, 25 of those tackles for a loss, and get this, as an inside linebacker, he has 7.5 sacks throughout his career. What role can he play in the Packers inside linebackers room?
I'm curious to see what they do with them, because I remember when in 16, the Packers played the Falcons for the NFC Championship, and that season he was a rookie starter. I think he was like a 5th-round pick, so it wasn't like he was a high pick, but he's really fast. He had a great 40 time. He was just an undersized but really fast, explosive guy, and he ended up playing and being a good player for him by the end of the year. One of the reasons the Falcons were pretty good was they had 2 rookies starting at inside linebacker who improved as the season went on and were playing pretty good football by the playoffs, and he was one of them. Now he's going to be 28, I think in July, when I just looked it up a little bit ago. Linebackers are a little bit like running backs, 28's getting up there for that position. For a running back, it's old. For a linebacker, it's getting near old. So I'm not sure how dynamic he still is. And it sounds like from what Matt LaFleur said about him, and he talked about him, how good he was in coverage was kind of what LaFleur brought up first. And LaFleur was on the staff at Atlanta in 16 when Campbell was there. So maybe they see this guy as, a guy they put out there in the dime or nickel as one of the inside linebackers, just when they think it's more likely to be a pass, a better coverage guy. I don't know if they plan on starting him. I think with Barnes and Martin, they have some talent there, but maybe the Packers aren't as high on them as I am, or maybe they just see Campbell as an experienced backup, maybe dime guy, something like that.
Let's discuss the offense now, pivot over to that discussion. One of the most important, significant discussions that we're going to have throughout training camp is going to be about the starting offensive line this upcoming regular season, with left tackle David Bakhtiari likely to be injured. We'll see if he's ready come early in the regular season. That said, today we saw an interesting offensive line combination that had Billy Turner at left tackle and Royce Newman, the rookie, at right tackle. When Newman was drafted, we heard from co-director of player personnel John Eric Sullivan talk a little bit about Newman, saying that yes, he is a little bit more of an interior lineman just based off of his body type. However, if Newman had to go play right tackle, John Eric Sullivan said that he would feel comfortable with Newman at that position. Where in the mix does Newman stand for a starting role, especially at tackle?
Yeah, that's a great question. No idea, just because, I can't tell. I make no claims about being able to tell very much about players when they're not in pads anyway. And with offensive linemen, I don't know how you can know anything about them unless maybe you're one of the coaches and you know whether they're doing their assignments right, whether their footwork is, whether they're doing that stuff right. Otherwise, there's nothing that you can tell. They're not hitting, so they're not blocking. So I don't, Elton Jenkins isn't there from the way they lined up when he was there. He's the left tackle and Turner's the right tackle. So I don't know if Newman is just getting, they're just checking him out to see what they think so far. Maybe he seems to have picked up the offense fast, so they wanted to get a look at him there. I would still think he's pretty far down the, at least a couple spots down the pecking order. But like you said, Bakhtiari is out. And from everything that I've been told over the years, I just don't see Pat McKenzie, the Packers doctor. He just is not going to let guys come back quicker than 9 months from an ACL surgery. If you look at all the metrics of that, it sounds like your chances of getting a compensatory, if you come back earlier than 9 months, your chances go way up for getting compensatory injuries, for developing arthritis more quickly and worse. And even Bulaga, who came back really fast, he started practicing before 9 months, but he didn't play in a game until he was 9 months back from surgery. So you got to figure, what did Bakhtiari said he had the surgery the 7th, right? January 7th. So 9 months takes you to October 7th. So I'm thinking he's missing at least 3 games, and depending on how things go, it could easily be 3 to 8 games. My guess would be closer to 3 than to 8, but you never know.
The Packers would love to have David Bakhtiari back as soon as humanly possible. However, they will not put him out there until he is physically ready to go. Until then, we will see if another tackle, a budding tackle, can overthrow maybe somebody else for that starting position. We will see how that competition shakes out as we get into training camp. Let us head over to Facebook, Periscope, and YouTube for some of your questions now. It is lovely to see so many familiar faces in the chat, as always. Let's start with Tyler on YouTube. Tyler asks, which receiver would you say Love has the most trust in so far, just based off of what we have seen? The most veteran receivers have only been at minicamp for 2 days. So that would be Devontae Adams, Marquez Valdes-Scantling, Equinemius St. Brown, Alan Lazard, and Devin Funchess. They were not here for the last 2 weeks of OTAs, so they're probably still working with Love to try to develop some chemistry, simply because Jordan Love wasn't taking the majority of reps last season behind Aaron Rodgers and Tim Boyle. That being said, of the passes you have seen Love complete to some of the less experienced receivers, who has stood out to you?
Nobody really jumps out. And like I said, when they were doing 11 on 11 in the OTAs, it was half speed and it was just one period, if I remember right, at least the day that I went. So that was nothing to go on. But they've done a lot of 11 on 11 the last 2 days and at full speed, so that's with everybody there. Now, Adams isn't doing any team stuff. He's not doing any 11 on 11, or I don't even know if he's doing any competitive stuff at all. I think he's just doing individual group work from what I could tell. I guess the guy that I think he's maybe throwing most to, he hit Lazard on a free play on a deep ball, when they drew the defense off sides, and he hit him downfield, and he hit him for the touchdown at the end of 2 minutes. So maybe him, maybe Lazard might be the guy that he appears to have the earliest chemistry with.
It's tough to tell, however, as we continue through minicamp and head into training camp, we'll have a little bit of a better sense of who Love is developing a chemistry with. That is, of course, unless Aaron Rodgers at some point shows up. Speaking of Aaron Rodgers, let's take a question here from Josh, who always seems to ask the hard-hitting questions. Josh asks, if Aaron Rodgers doesn't show up to camp, what would you do? Let him sit for a season or trade him? I'll ask you to put on your general manager, Brian Gutekunst's cap, Pete. What should the Packers do this season if Aaron Rodgers doesn't show up?
Yeah, that's the big one. I guess if he doesn't show up and you get into the season, I'd maybe I don't know if I would trade him during camp, or at least, in the first half of camp, because he still might come back, and if he play for you, and if he, they're obviously a Super Bowl contender with him if he's there and fully engaged. You get into the season, I guess it would depend on what kind of. You'd have to get a really good offer from a team, because they could wait till the off season, and then there might be more teams in the market for a quarterback, so that could drive up, increase the price. But if you sell during the season, let's say a team had an injury at quarterback, or their quarterback wasn't playing well and they think they're good, maybe a team like Las Vegas would be willing to, sell the farm to get him. So it would probably depend on the offers, because if he is willing to sit the whole season, and you do decide, okay, we'll trade him. If you wait to trade him in the off season, you can also claw back some money from him this year for the roster bonus, for prorated signing bonus. I think together that might add up to, like, is it 11 million that they in the prorated signing bonus? I think it might be. So that and 6.8 million, you're talking 17-18 million dollars they could claw back for their cap. So it's a really tough question, an interesting one. I guess push to shove, it would just depend on what kind of offers they started getting, if they were convinced that he just wasn't ever going to play for them. And you get a good enough offer in, September or October, maybe you pull the trigger.
Your questions, everyone, are not getting any easier. Let's take one here from Mike. Mike wants to know, who do you see as the opening day starter, Rodgers, Love, or Bortles? Mike, you say it's not an Aaron Rodgers question, but I think it is an Aaron Rodgers question.
I think it is,
right?
yes.
Listen, hypotheticals are so hard to answer without any sort of context whatsoever. If Aaron Rodgers does show up to training camp, then of course he will be the starter week one. If he doesn't, who is most likely to be the starter, Jordan Love or Blake Bortles, who has quite a bit of NFL experience?
Yeah, and I'd be curious to know what you think on this, because for a couple months now, I've been saying, thinking, writing 60-40, Rodgers won't be back. I'm starting, and I don't really have a good reason for this other than time maybe is taking care. Will take care of this, and he'll cool down. Maybe it's 60-40 the other way, that he will be the quarterback. That's up to him, and just how badly he wants out, and if he's willing to sit out camp and season and regular season games to do it. Love or Bortles? Love is so inexperienced, even though, he had a really nice day today, but he's got, a lot to learn. It would be a real competition. I don't know who I'd bet on. I guess I would probably bet on Bortles, but after watching Love hit some big throws today, maybe him. Now, he also had a couple bad decisions. He had an interception he threw right into Darnell Savage's chest that Savage dropped, and he had a bad decision on another throw on the move that could have been intercepted. It was, broken up, could have been picked. He's got so much to learn. It's tough for those guys. So maybe I'd lean a hair towards Bortles, at least to begin the season. But Love is getting all these reps, and he'll get them all tomorrow too, right? Because he got them all today, or almost all of them, the same yesterday.
I think our answer to this,
it's a flip of the coin. I don't know. Who do you think?
I think it would be more meaningful to come back and revisit this question after the preseason, when we finally have seen Jordan Love play in some semblance of an NFL caliber game. We have not seen him. He was deprived of playing in any sort of NFL action, no preseason last season because of the COVID-19 pandemic. This upcoming season, he will have an abbreviated preseason, 3 games, to show a little bit of his stuff. I think after that period of time, we will have a better sense of how Jordan Love can command the offense when the pads are on, when there's contact, when they're not in shorts, when there's a pass rush. I think we'll maybe get a little bit of a flash of that in training camp. Then preseason, I think we can come back to this question and ask ourselves, if Aaron Rodgers is not yet here, Jordan Love, is he the starter? Blake Bortles is there if Love isn't ready. That is how I am going about this, Pete. I'm sure you may feel the same way.
Yeah, it's just so tough for a young guy like that, especially one who was already considered pretty raw. And he just got so little experience last year because of shortened camp, no off season, no preseason games, being the number 3, wasn't even getting a lot of practice reps. So he would have a long ways to go. But yeah, even 3 weeks into camp, so that would be, a couple weeks of practice in a preseason game, probably, we'd have a lot better feel for it. But I don't think it's a given. For instance, I don't think they're just going to say, yeah, it's Jordan Love. I would think they would make it a competition, I would think.
Thank you, Mike, for your question. No simple answers right now. Maybe we'll have a better idea in the coming weeks. Let's take a question here from Nick. Nick wants to know, what is the most difficult part for the receivers when it comes to working with a new quarterback? What are some of the challenges that present itself with Love working in with these receivers, not for the first time, but taking most of the reps for the first time?
Yeah, I think it's just timing stuff. They're used to working with Rodgers, and they know when he generally will get the ball out. I'm sure on certain plays when they see the coverages, the more experienced receivers have a decent feel for where he's likely to go with it and how quick the ball might come out. It's just timing is a really big part of it, and their timing with Rodgers is obviously going to be so much better because they played with him so often. And the unspoken communication, maybe the back shoulder throws, reading those things. It's just that just takes nothing but time and reps can get that stuff down.
Thank you, Nick, for your question. Let's continue our conversation about the receivers. Jelly Bear over on Facebook wants to know, Devin Funchess versus Allen Lazard. Who is the better complement to Davante Adams? I believe they're similar heights. Devin Funchess, 6'4". Allen Lazard, is he 6'4" or 6'3"? Somewhere around there. I don't want to shave off an inch from Allen Lazard, but regardless, both of them are similar body types. How do their games complement Davante Adams?
Well, they're really similar players. I mean, they're both tall, long. We've seen a lot more of Lazard. So, and today he had a decent day today. Also, I did have a drop over the middle on one, but we haven't seen enough of Funchess to really get much of a feel for him. I don't even know, was he getting that many reps today? I just don't remember him being targeted very often. So I just don't have a very good feel for him. They're really similar. All their characteristics are the same. They're really tall. They're big. They're not super fast or dynamic for wide receivers, but they have the length and catch radius and those things. So they're kind of the same guy.
Devin Funchess did not take a lot of reps today because he was dealing with some sort of injury. He was working off to the side with an athletic trainer, getting stretched out. He dropped out of individual drills, I believe, at some point, and then he came back, and he dropped out of team drills. So clearly he was dealing with some pain today. It's very early. We haven't seen a lot of Devin Funchess. I'm looking forward to seeing more of him, and I will apologize to Allen Lazard. He is 6'5". I don't want to do wrong on height, but according to Pro Football Reference, 6'5", 227. So similar weight to Devin Funchess. So thank you, Jelly Bear, for your question. Let's go over to I Got Skills on YouTube. You all have some very creative usernames. How does quarterback Eric Stokes look so far? Stokes had a pass breakup today, I think in the 2-minute drill, so we got to see a little bit of how his hands can work in coverage. What have you made of Eric Stokes so far in a very short period of time?
Yeah, and he had a breakup. I think he had a breakup yesterday too in team drills. But I've got to be honest here. And Love has taken 95% of the snaps in 11-on-11. I would say at least, maybe even more. I mean, almost all of them. And I've pretty much only been watching. Almost all my attention has been watching him, just to start to get a feel for what kind of passer he is, what kind of player he is. So I haven't watched. There weren't any plays where I just watched Stokes in coverage. He definitely, you can see some speed and explosiveness, but that's about all I can say. You look at the rotation. He's with all their guys there today. He's still, what was he, 4th or 5th in the rotation? Sullivan's playing the nickel, and Amos was doing a lot of the dime stuff from safety, moving up to the corner linebacker spot in the dime. So Stokes was not working with the ones and any of that stuff, for whatever that's worth. That can change quickly in training camp. Guys move up and down the depth charts fast, with some good performances when they really flash. Now is not the time where they're doing depth chart stuff. That's in camp where they redo the depth chart every day.
we will continue to keep an eye on Eric Stokes and let you know of any impressive developments that we notice, especially heading into training camp. Thank you so much for your question, and thank you all very much for joining us for today's live stream. We will be back tomorrow to recap the final day of minicamp. The off-season program is not over. There is one more week of OTAs next week, and then they will break until training camp. We are getting so close to the preseason, everyone. Thank you all for tuning in to PackersNews.com for all of your Packers coverage. For Pete Dougherty, I am Olivia Reiner. We will see you next time.